And we did take a break, and it was rather remarkable how our governor kind of moved into a higher profile with kind of taking on Donald Trump to a certain degree. Maybe not on the same level as Governor Newsom, but there has been several exchanges between him and President Trump. Not a particularly dignified correspondence, I would say. But and then just more recently, we find out that the governor is in Italy with George Clooney, and so there's just the nature of the game, I guess, that these things come together almost in the same week. Len, let me hear your thoughts.
So, good morning, Dave, Clay. Let's start with the most recent story, since that's what's fresh on everyone's mind right now, which is the governor's trip to Italy, where he took his wife, Dawn, on a 50th birthday party vacation to Italy and stayed at the home of George Clooney. In one respect, this is not a story, period, full stop. The governor is entitled to take a trip. He's entitled to take a vacation wherever he wants, whenever he wants, as long as he's on not on the taxpayer dime. By all accounts, and all we have at this point is his word, and this will come out in the wash, but we have his word that he has paid for the trip, and that should be the end of it, right? And there are people on social media who are making a lot of hay about it, suggesting that the taxpayers are paying for this, that the governors are essentially stealing from the public till by going over to Italy. Let's call that for what it is. It's racism, okay? The same people who would shrug off Donald Trump's acceptance of a $400 million Boeing jet from the government of Qatar are now clutching their pearls and lunging for the Davenport because the governor is taking a vacation with his wife, okay? That said, this story could have been better handled, okay? The fact is that the governor is going out of town for several days on an overseas trip. This should have been publicly disclosed, that the governor is taking a vacation with his wife to celebrate her 50th birthday party. So the vacation should have been disclosed. The context should have been publicly and proactively disclosed. And honestly, the executive power of the governorship should have been transferred from the governor to Lieutenant Governor Aruna Miller, in my humble opinion, because the governor simply is not physically present to tend to the executive functions of state government in an emergency, even though he is available by remote. So, in substance, it's not a story, okay? But in terms of the operations of the second floor and the political antenna of the second floor, it was an unforced error, in my opinion. He should have just disclosed it and gotten ahead of the story. And we talk about this all the time on this segment, and I talk about it all the time in my class. It's called the empty glass theory. Either you're going to tell your story your way, or somebody else is going to figure it out and tell the story their way, and you're not going to like how they do it. So it's a basic principle of public sector communication, and the rules weren't observed, and now we're in this ridiculous news cycle for a couple of days.
Clay, I'm sure you have some thoughts.
I do, and good morning to you both. I don't see racism in this at all. I see righteous indignation. It's not like the governor hasn't been out of town for months and months and months. He does go out of town. Almost every weekend he's not there. He's not sitting at his desk. The public funding of this, I don't think, is a story, and I'll take Len and the governor at his word that there's no taxpayer money involved with this. But it's a matter of being present at your desk and doing work. Going overseas to George Clooney's place, who is a major Democratic fundraiser, especially if this guy's going to run for president, which he says he's not. That's another misrepresentation that the governor puts out there. It's just a bad it's bad viewing and bad signal for the people of the state of Maryland to see their governor just not present again, out there having a good time. Now, Len said that he gets to take a trip anytime that he wants, and if you need a break, that's fine. But my gosh, look at all the problems that are going on in this state right now. It's not like we don't have any problems. Happy birthday to the First Lady. But as Len said, this should have been disclosed up front. There should have been, a public disclosure of this, and it would have been a non-story. But like Len said, by mishandling the communications of this, it has become a story. And I think that the people of the state of Maryland are right to be not happy with this.
Hey, Len, I want to go back to the other part of my question, which is this sparring with Donald Trump before the Italian story broke, so to speak. Did this kind of, many people were giving him some credit for standing up to Trump and kind of changing his response tone. How about that side of the coin?
I will get to that in just 10 seconds, but I do just want to clean up on something that Clay said. And he mentioned the fact that he was going to the home of George Clooney, who is obviously an international movie star, a prominent Democratic mega donor, kind of a kingmaker, as we've discussed in the Democratic Party. We know that Westmore has friends in elite political and entertainment and economic circles. We also know that even though he has said he's not running for president in 2028, that he does have national ambitions. I don't think that's any secret. I think it would be insulting to the electorate for me to sit here and suggest that he doesn't. And I think that people have already baked those factors into the stock prices, they say. I think they've already factored that into Westmore's political profile when determining whether they like him or don't like him. So I just don't see the fact that he's hanging out with George Clooney and Lake Como is that big of a deal. Again, just to close the loop and agree with Clay, the mechanics are an issue. And the second floor has just got to stop creating these unforced errors. This is not the first. Absent a change in leadership at the top, it's not going to be the last. And we're just getting too far along in this gubernatorial cycle for these things to just keep happening. You can't say these are rookie mistakes where we're now 3 years into the governor's term of office. Now, going back to the Trump versus Moore, Donald Trump has been throwing brickbats at the state of Maryland now for the last 6 months, ever since he's taken office. He pulled the FBI headquarters out of Greenbelt. He has dismantled large segments of the federal government, and which disproportionately impacts Maryland because we are a federal government and DC adjacent. He has threatened the funding for the Francis Scott Key Bridge. Now he's talking about bringing the National Guard into Baltimore in calling it, and I just want to be clear, a hellhole and a deathbed. Dave, what in the hell is the governor supposed to do if not stick up for the state of Maryland against a president who clearly despises Baltimore, who is clearly targeting the state of Maryland because it is a deep blue state? He has an obligation and a responsibility to push back when the state of Maryland is being attacked by this president for political purposes. I think he's also substantively right on the issue. There is absolutely not one damn thing that the National Guard will do to make Baltimore or any other city or town in the state of Maryland safer. It's not what they are trained to do. They are trained to respond to emergencies, and they are trained to serve in military exercises when duty calls. They are not supposed to carry out the functions of a state or a municipal police department. It is simply not what they are trained to do. So it casts a black eye on Baltimore, and it puts innocent men and women at risk. And it's just more performance art from a president who is trying to turn the page from Jeffrey Epstein, his chronic mishandling of the American economy, and now growing and unresolved questions about his deteriorating health.
Clayton?
I got to say one thing. I think this whole transaction between the president and Governor Moore is childish. It's petulant. It's unbecoming to both. They're both engaging in a war of words that really shouldn't have happened. Now, I will say, if Governor Moore keeps poking the bear in Washington, which he continues to do, President Trump isn't the kind of guy, is a normal president. He is going to fight back. And I think the war of words that Governor Moore is actively engaged in with him has cost us the FBI building. And the president says, why should I put the FBI building in a blue state? We'll just keep it here in Washington. Thank you very much. The loss of jobs that have occurred in Maryland, of course, that's going to occur in Maryland when you trim the federal budget, as we should be doing. A lot of the people who lost their jobs got payouts, and that was a choice that they made. For the federal troops, Mayor Bowser of Washington at first was critical of it. She came out saying, hey, you know something? There's something to this. This works. And I say, let's not ask President Trump, let's not ask Wes Moore whether the troops are needed or should come into Baltimore. Let's ask the good people of the city of Baltimore whether they would like to have that type of help to help make the crime in Baltimore go down further. To say that they're not trained for this type of situation, I think, it is not what they're there to do. They're there to supplement and support law enforcement, to give them the room to do law enforcement work. I think that this is just such an unfortunate thing to happen for us to witness and see this going back and forth. It doesn't solve a lot of problems. Now, when I say about poking the bear, if he keeps going on like President Trump warned, the key bridge funding could be at issue. Now, do you want to continue fighting with the president who holds all the gold, or do you want to say, you know something, let's find a way to work together? And that's not what's happening. And I think it's an ego problem that both of them have, and it's unfortunate for the citizens of Maryland.
Dave, I want to go back and jump on something that Clay said, which is that the FBI building, the relocation from the proposed Greenbelt location back to the district or wherever it is we're going to take it, that was announced on July 1st. So that announcement by the Trump administration predated this most recent war of words. So that those two events are neither correlative or causal. And if you actually talk to the people of Washington, D.C., and I have, and there's been ample news coverage of the response of the business community in downtown D.C. and in entertainment districts around the city. The presence of the National Guard is actually having a depressing effect on customer traffic, receipts, revenue, because guess what? No one wants to go out and hang out and spend an evening and have dinner, go to a show, go bar hopping in what appears to be a militarized zone. And so, again, Donald Trump, in his desire to, pretend that he is an absolute ruler, who has the power to summon the troops at his beck and call, he's actually hurting the American economy, and he's hurting the local economy. And I guarantee you, if they do this in Baltimore, it's going to have the same effect. They're going to disproportionately assign National Guard troops to downtown areas, commercial districts like Fells Point, Fed Hill, Mount Vernon, and it's not going to have any effect whatsoever. In fact, it's going to actually take people out of the city because no one wants to recreate under those conditions.
Hey, listen, we got to watch the time here. Clayton, hot takes time. What got your interest this week?
Well, I want to say that the winner that I have this week is the farmers and landowners in northern and western Maryland. They got a small victory in court this week where the court ruled that the surveyors for the Piedmont power line are not going to be afforded U.S. Marshal protection. It's a small victory, but it is a good victory for those landowners and farmers. My loser this week, as we just discussed, I think it's both Governor Moore and President Trump for engaging in the childish behavior, going back and forth. with this war of words. I just think it's unfortunate, and both of them lose in this, in my view.
Len?
I think one of the winners in the state of Maryland, and I'm not thrilled about it, but I have to call them as I see them, is Ocean City, Maryland, with Donald Trump and his administration pulling the plug on the offshore wind, pulling the plug on federal funding for the offshore wind project off of the Atlantic coastline. It is a victory for the town and for the elected leaders and the citizen advocates who have been protesting this project for some time now, and have done so on the basis that it would disrupt the pristine coast horizon of Ocean City and make it a less family friendly resort. I don't think for a second that people care about the unfettered coastline or horizon of Ocean City. And I think to the extent that people go to Ocean City or decide not to, it has nothing to do with windmills 12 to 14 miles off of the Atlantic coast. But a win is a win, and good for them, I suppose. My loser this week, it has to be Donald Trump. He is not, for the three reasons I mentioned just a few minutes ago. Number one, the questions regarding the Jeffrey Epstein case have gone unresolved. The full report, the full Epstein file has not been released. His base is increasingly restive. It is a story that is not going away. The economy, based on several key metrics, seem to be going in the wrong direction. And here in Maryland, one of our leading economists has confirmed that we are extremely likely to be heading into a recession. And then third, he doesn't seem to be getting any healthier as time goes on. And I think that those of us who are concerned about the Biden White House shielding the true condition of the president back in that administration, those people should also be concerned about the level of transparent information that's coming out of the Trump White House.
Well, thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.